You were taught that the Bible is full of gentle stories, lessons of love, patience, kindness, and some of it is. But there's another side, one that most people never talk about. A side filled with empires that crushed everything in their path, with men thrown into darkness to die, and with animals that the ancient world didn't just fear, they dreaded. The lion in the Bible wasn't a symbol of courage, not at first. It was a symbol of the end, of judgment, of something so final that even kings used it as a weapon. And yet, buried inside one of the most terrifying stories in all of biblical history is something that will completely change the way you see fear, faith, and what it actually means to survive the impossible. This is the story they never told you the way it actually happened. There's something the ancient world understood about lions that modern minds have almost forgotten. In the pages of biblical history, the lion wasn't simply a wild animal, but it was a symbol that made grown men tremble. Not because of its claws, not because of its roar, but because of what it represented. In ancient Israel, in the courts of kings, and the prophecies of prophets, the lion carried a weight that went far beyond the physical. It was woven into the spiritual fabric of an entire civilization, a presence that could mean power, judgment, or something far darker. Something that once it locked eyes on you, left no room for escape. But what exactly made this animal so much more than dangerous? In those times, a lion wasn't just a threat. It was a death sentence. The ancient world had no tranquilizer darts, no steel cages, no emergency response. When a lion crossed your path, in the open fields of ancient Israel, along the Jordan River, or in the wilderness beyond the city walls, the outcome was almost always the same. Travelers disappeared. Shepherds never came home. Even the bravest warriors spoke of lions with a particular kind of silence, the kind that comes not from ignorance, but from knowing exactly what those animals were capable of. A single encounter could end everything. No second chances, no survival stories, just silence. And yet, one man stood inside a den full of them and walked out alive. His name was Daniel, a man of faith in a world that had no patience for it. He wasn't a warrior. He wasn't a king. He was a captive, taken from his homeland, living under the rule of an empire that worshipped gods of stone and gold. And yet somehow this man rose. He became trusted, respected, and eventually deeply envied. In a kingdom built on power and politics, Daniel's integrity made him dangerous to the wrong people. And in ancient Babylon, when powerful men wanted someone destroyed, they didn't use swords in the dark. They used the law. They used the system. They built a trap so perfectly designed that there seemed to be no way out. And at the center of that trap waited something that didn't need a reason to kill. To understand what Daniel faced, you have to understand the world he lived in. The Babylonian Empire, and later the Medo-Persian Empire under Darius, operated on absolute power. There was no appeal, no mercy, no courtroom drama where the innocent walked free on a technicality. When a king issued a decree, it became law, unchangeable, unstoppable, final. Punishment wasn't just about consequence. It was about spectacle, about sending a message to everyone watching. Execution methods were designed to be witnessed, to be remembered, to instill a specific kind of fear in an entire population. And the lion's den wasn't an accident of cruelty. It was a calculated, deliberate instrument of the empire, a place where the verdict was already written before anyone even walked through the door. And then there were the lions themselves. These weren't the distant, docile creatures of a nature documentary. These were animals kept deliberately hungry, caged not to be studied, but to be used. In the ancient world, lions were the apex of fear. Their roar alone could paralyze. A sound so deep, so physical, it wasn't just heard. It was felt in the chest, in the bones. They could bring down prey 3 times their size without hesitation. And in captivity, stripped of the open plains, deprived of the hunt, that instinct didn't disappear. It sharpened. It coiled. It waited. A den full of lions wasn't just a room with dangerous animals. It was a room designed to guarantee one thing. And everyone who had ever seen it knew exactly what that one thing was. The trap was set with precision. Daniel's enemies had watched him carefully, long enough to know his one unchangeable habit. Every day, 3 times a day, he knelt by his window facing Jerusalem and prayed. So they went to King Darius with a new decree. For 30 days, no one could pray to any god or man except the king himself. Darius signed it without hesitation. And the moment he did, the trap closed. Daniel knew. He heard about the decree. He understood exactly what it meant. And he went home, opened his window, and knelt down. Just like always. When his enemies found him, they didn't hide their satisfaction. They brought him before the king. And Darius, who genuinely respected Daniel, realized too late that he had been used. The law couldn't be undone. Not even by a king. The stone was placed over the entrance. The king's seal pressed into it. And then, silence. Inside that den, the darkness was absolute. The kind of darkness that has weight that presses against the skin. Daniel couldn't see them, but he could hear them. The low, rhythmic breathing of animals that had never learned patience, only hunger. The occasional shift of massive bodies against stone, the sound of claws. And somewhere in that blackness, eyes that could see perfectly in the dark were already watching him. There was no weapon in his hands, no wall at his back, no escape. Just a man alone, in a space designed exclusively for one outcome. Outside, King Darius spent the entire night unable to eat, unable to sleep, unable to stop what he had already set in motion, and the night stretched on. At the first light of dawn, Darius ran. The text says he hurried, a king, running to a lion's den, calling out into the darkness with a voice cracked by a sleepless night. Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God been able to rescue you? And then something happened that no empire, no decree, no human logic could explain. A voice answered, calm, steady, alive. Daniel stood in that den untouched. Not a wound, not a mark, not a trace of what should have happened. The Bible says an angel had been sent, that the mouths of the lions had been shut, not weakened, not distracted, shut. The same animals that would tear a man apart in seconds had spent the entire night beside him and done nothing. The den hadn't changed. The lions hadn't changed. Something else had entered that space. Throughout the Bible, the lion carries a meaning that goes far deeper than teeth and claws. It appears in prophecy, in poetry, in visions of judgment. The lion is used to describe the wrath of God against nations that turned away. It's used to describe the enemy that prowls, looking for someone to devour. And it's used, remarkably, to describe the Messiah himself, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. The same symbol that represented destruction also represented divine authority. In biblical symbolism, the lion didn't just mean danger. It meant a force beyond human control, something that could only be faced, survived, or overcome through a power that didn't belong to the natural world. Daniel's survival wasn't just a miracle, it was a statement. Written in the silence of a den that should have been a grave, the den still exists, not in stone and darkness, but in the spaces of human life where the odds are impossible and the outcome already seems written. There are moments that feel exactly like that sealed entrance, that absolute darkness, that sound of something circling in the silence. Moments where no skill, no strategy, no human connection can change what's coming. Daniel didn't survive because he was stronger than the lions. He survived because he didn't stop being who he was, not when the decree was signed, not when the stone was rolled, not in the middle of the night when no one was watching. His faithfulness wasn't performed for an audience. It was simply consistent. And in that consistency, in that unbroken posture, something was set in motion that no empire had the power to stop. So here's what's worth sitting with. Daniel faced the very thing that was designed to destroy him and walked out without a single mark. Not because the danger wasn't real, it was. Not because the lions weren't hungry, they were. But because something greater than the den, greater than the empire, greater than the sentence, stepped into that darkness with him. And that raises a question worth asking. If you were standing at the entrance of your own lion's den, the situation that feels impossible, the accusation you can't fight, the night that seems to have no morning, what would it take for you to kneel down and pray anyway? Drop your answer in the comments, because something tells me you've already faced a den of your own. That question isn't rhetorical. It's the one that matters most. Because Daniel's story wasn't written to impress you. It was written to remind you that the den is real, the night is long, and the morning doesn't always come when you expect it. But it comes. If this story stirred something inside you, if it made you think of your own den, your own sealed entrance, your own impossible night, leave it in the comments below. What's the lion's den you're facing right now? You don't have to face it alone, and you don't have to figure it out in silence. And if you want to keep going deeper into the stories that most people have never heard the way they actually happened, subscribe to this channel and turn on the